Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest Scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Well, this is Devon Morris checking in on the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show, and it's just another one of those weeks. It's kind of like this one of those weeks where I actually have training, all week. So I had a class of a whole lot of people in a smaller CSPO class over today and tomorrow. So it's been quite interesting. And I've had people that have sent questions across, and I've run some experiments, and I just I'm always doing something. So I just said to myself, let me tell you a little bit about some of the things that are going on. Obviously, you can capture me in Scrum Master classes and CSPO classes and Agile classes in general. But one thing that is true at this point is, if you know anything about me, I just want to kind of talk about something that I've tried, and it's true to what I train and teach and everything else. And so it's one of those things I just kind of want to bring up to the general public here, and then you understand. Before I bring up that, I want to go ahead and add the actual link to join the conversation. If you have a question, I have some people that may decide to join, may not join, whatever it is. But we're going to start off this conversation with the things that I talked about in terms of the class today. And one of the things that I brought up with them was the fact that I ran an experiment. So if you all recall, probably, because we're doing this every other week now, probably a month ago, I actually had someone reach out to me from another country, send me an email, and was realistically like, hey, why don't we go ahead? Could you do some of these events at times that will work for people in other countries? Well, with the show being global, I mean, realistically, no one stops you from jumping on the internet, jumping on YouTube to watch the show. Pretty much, I'm assuming in any country, on any continent, on the planet. Well, here's the deal. They wanted me to kind of give other people to have access to the show. The good thing is we provide this show on YouTube all the time. So the copy of whatever is goes live will be on YouTube immediately, pretty much within seconds of the show being done. It has the initial parts of the actual timer going down, but beyond that, it's actually there. The actual entire thing is right there on YouTube. And so I remember I sent that across to them, right? I really sent it across to them with the idea that here's a copy of the show. You can watch the show anytime, because a lot of people, realistically, they may not just have the opportunity to watch the show. And I understand that. We're on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock. We were on Mondays. And if you don't have an opportunity to watch the show live, I get it, but you have an opportunity to go get that information anytime you choose. You just go to Devon, well, I think it's youtube.com/Devon Morslav. And if you go there, you'll find all the shows, all the clips, all of everything. Okay? Great. So what I said to myself is, I don't have the bandwidth to continually change the hours that I go to sleep, the hours that I get some rest, the hours that I primarily provide service within the Central Standard Time Zone, because that's where I live. And then, maybe a little bit after that. And even when I was training, when we was going around in training across the country, realistically, I wasn't training across the country because I would have wore myself out. I was primarily training between East Coast, well, really Eastern Time Zone, Central Time Zone, rarely going to Mountain and Pacific. I mean, absolutely rarely going to, I would say 99% of my classes were there. Okay, so I understand the time zone issue, right? But I also understand that I want to have balance. And so I thought about it really hard. And I said, well, if people really, really want to actually be a part of the show or to ask their question, what is a way that I can actually help them out? Provide some mechanism for them to be a part of the show. Now, you can watch the show anytime, right? Because that's already on YouTube. Everything is there. I don't really delete anything from there. Everything is there, okay? So they already have access to that. So then my thought process was, what I will do is give them access or the ability to ask a question. To really say, okay, I have a question that I'd like for you to answer. And so I created this segment called In the Loop. In the loop, right? So in the loop, right? Because I wanted to keep them in the loop, keep them in the circle, make sure they have an opportunity to get their questions answered. Well, we're on I probably about 3 weeks ago communicated the in the loop segment. And in true fashion, I was going to go and find a service that I can provide people with a link, and they could go and actually upload videos to that link. But that was going to cost me some money. So I'm like, okay, if I spend some money on something and it doesn't work, then it wouldn't be good. So I always start off with a minimally viable test. No matter what it is, I start off with a minimally viable test. Now, what do I mean by this minimally viable test? I am talking about getting some feedback from this community, whether this thing is going to work or not, based on their actions, how they consume whatever it is I'm trying to test. So what I did is I sent an email saying, hey, if you want to be a part of the show, not just watch the show at any time you choose, then join the In the Loop segment. And what you can do is you can record a video, 1 or 2 minutes, nothing too long, because if I get a ton of them, I want to answer as many as possible. And then the other problem is, the reason why we created the show in the first place is to have an exchange between people, right? Because sometimes I want to ask a question to go a little bit deeper. Sometimes I need to coach someone through it. And so I went ahead and ran that segment. I went ahead and went forward with that. Created the Dropbox location. It's free because I have a Dropbox account. Created a folder where all they have to do is just go to that link and drop the video in that link. It just really, if they really had a question. And my philosophy is I would split screen, kind of split screen like this, and just kind of over there, I would go ahead and throw the video up and allow the video to be played so you can hear it and I can hear it, and then respond to the video. Okay? Respond to the video. Now, here's the deal, and here's the truth. Can you imagine how many videos were submitted? Can somebody throw in the chat how many videos were actually submitted for the segment? Well, if there were videos submitted to the segment, I probably would be showing them right now. But the truth is, 0 videos were submitted to the segment. 0 videos. None. No videos were submitted. Now, does that mean that people don't have any questions? I don't know. I have no clue. I have no clue. But if I create a facility to see if people have questions that are someplace where they can't view it, but they still have a question, maybe they just didn't have any questions right now. I get it. So I probably will leave that box open to allow people to put it there just in case people have questions. But here's my question for you out there. How long should I run that experiment for? If I've gone through, and this is my second show with not a single question, 0 questions, how long do you think I should run that experiment before I say, hey, let's do something different? What do you think? How long do you think I should run that experiment? Now, look, I'm going to be honest with you. Am I offended? Absolutely not. I'm not hurt. My feelings aren't hurt. I'm not calling any names out. Really, I'm not. I'm not saying anybody's wrong. I'm not saying anybody's right. I'm not saying anything. I'm not passing any judgment whatsoever. But I am saying that here's the deal. I want to answer people's questions. If people don't have any questions, then it's just a shorter show. I have no problem with that. But I want to give people an opportunity to ask questions. Does that make sense, everybody? Nothing really crazy, nothing really problematic. I just want to give them the opportunity to ask questions. So here's the deal. We ran the experiment. Has the experiment been successful? Not yet. I'm going to keep running it maybe for another, maybe 1 or 2 shows. And if I don't receive any videos, then that says to me that it's probably something that the majority of this community is not interested in. Maybe it'll work later as the community grows, but I would recommend that we, as Shane says, I should leave it as an option, right? as Seuss, as let's say Shane says again, it would probably be better for interaction, right? The whole purpose of me doing this was to have interaction or allow it to be interactive, because that allows us to be live and ask real questions, right? So, it's one of those things where, hey, it's no problem. But the real deal here is that we've tried the experiment. I'm actually going to keep it open. I'm not going to shut it down. I'm still going to give people an opportunity. I'm still going to leave room for people to ask questions using a video, okay? And see how it works, because until I get an actual video, at least one, I don't really know how it's going to work in this environment, just in terms of testing it out. Now, I could get somebody to send a video and tell them, submit a video for me, and that'll be a good thing, okay? So I'm going to continue with that. Now, as I continue this conversation, welcome everybody. I want to say that you are welcome to join us on the show. If you don't have access to the link, I just went ahead and threw the link up on LinkedIn. I am going to go ahead and throw the same link out on YouTube in just a moment. So, and then you can join the show if you do have a question, okay? So you'll find those things there. So I definitely will leave it as an option for people. But it's just one of the ways. Here's the deal. Forget the fact that it didn't work. It was really about me running the experiment, and I want you to think about the experimenting part, because my assumption was that I had a whole lot of people in other time zones that maybe needed to ask a question and couldn't stay up, or couldn't, Wednesday was a bad time, and they just wasn't gonna be able to get in the show. And that's okay. That's completely all right. But I'm like, okay, let's take it a little bit further. Let's keep going. Let's just run these experiments and see how things are going. So I just find it very interesting, okay? And so I do have someone that is called, and so I'm going to go ahead and bring them aboard here. Just give me just a second here. Let's see. Let's bring up guest one. Hello. Put your camera down a little bit there. Is this who I think it is? This Tom? Tom,
Hey,
how you
Devon.
doing?
Yeah, I'm doing
Oh
good. How are you
man, let me tell
doing?
y'all something. Hold up. Let me slow down the show for a second. And let me honor the master here. Now, I want you all to understand and know, this man right here that's on the show right now, that's Tom Mellor. This is one of my mentors. Absolutely one of my mentors. I don't ask any questions of anybody, but he is the one that truly introduced me to Scrum. Am I right, Tom, or am I right?
Uh, yeah, I'll give you credit for that, Devon.
Yeah, he got to give me credit for that, right? And the reason why he got to
I'll
give me
give you
credit for
credit.
that is because he introduced it to me, right? I heard about extreme programming, and I heard about Scrum, and look, I am the simple guy where if it's free, it's for me. So my statement was, you can learn it for free. Why go get a certification? Why be involved in all this stuff? It makes no sense. It's free. Why do I need to spend a couple thousand, $1,000 for a class and spend time in a hotel to go get a certification? And we were literally sitting in a training class. And Tom said, we're not going to do Scrum. We're not going to do this thing. We're going to do Scrum. And he said, go get this training from Ken Schwaber. He said, he's going to be up in Chicago. Go to that training, and this is what we're going to do. And Tom decided to run the very first Scrum project at a little company called State Farm. And I was his project planner. Please understand, I was not a Scrum Master. He was a project manager. I wasn't a Scrum Master at all. And at State Farm, the situation was there was a project manager and a project planner. And a project planner supported all the, Tom, you went dark over there. You just can't go dark on me, man. You got to turn your lights on, Tom, or get to a room with some lights.
I know, somebody just turned the lights off on me.
And so realistically, when Tom told me to do that, you know what I did? I said, this guy's crazy. I said, he is crazy. I said, I just left Allstate, and I know that Allstate wasn't trying to change nothing. And this man is about to try to take on the whole State Farm. Now understand, at that time, I don't know the numbers, but at that time, I can tell you for sure that Allstate owned 12% of the cars being insured on the road in the United States of America. State Farm had owned 25% at that point in time. So we're talking a behemoth here, and he says literally, you know what I'm gonna do? State Farm's gonna do Scrum. I said he is absolutely crazy. He is crazy, but you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna follow him. Do you understand? I said I'm gonna follow him and learn as much as I possibly can. And I was on the first Scrum project at State Farm. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts to it. Right there with Tom. And Tom, do you remember? Do you remember how we kept going to get exceptions for all the dang on rules that they kept creating?
Yeah.
It was an interesting time. It was a fun time. But I'm going to tell you something that was really interesting. I learned a lot of things from Tom, and probably the biggest thing I learned from Tom was to have some flipping courage. I mean, we're talking about 2005, literally. That's when it happened, 2005.
No, I think you froze up on me.
Well, I think you're freezing up on me, Tom. I got pretty good internet here, Tom. What's wrong with your internet? Oh, you must be using your phone. Now, Tom went on to become a certified Scrum Trainer long before me. And part of my reason for being able to become a certified Scrum Trainer was because of his recommendation for sure when I actually received my CST in 2013. So without his support, I probably wouldn't be a certified Scrum Trainer, okay? Even when Tom said to me, go to this conference and go do that, you know what I did? I did exactly what he told me to do. I did exactly what he told me to do. I did not have any clue what I was getting into, people. And here's the worst part about it. Can you imagine being in a place where nobody's talking about this thing called Scrum? And now you're talking about Scrum Masters and product owners and names of things that people aren't used to. And I had people thinking it was a bad name or some porno flick or something like that. They had no clue about rugby. They didn't even know what a scrummage was. So we're sitting in Central Illinois trying to do Scrum. And ultimately was able to deliver the first successful Scrum project at State Farm, right? Now I left State Farm. I did. I left as that project was rounding up. And I'm gonna tell you why I left. Because I was never gonna be able to do what Tom could do. You understand? I was never going to be able to do what Tom could do. Now I'm gonna tell you there's a couple reasons why I think that. Tom's a little bit older than me, right? 15 years, we talking about 15, 16? It's probably like 16 years ago. 15, 16 years ago, literally, here's the truth, right? I was really young, man. And when I say really young, I was about 30, 31. And I was truly intimidated by corporate America. And I have this gentleman here who's a little bit older than me, and he has no fear of executives, no fear of people in general, and he's willing to go to battle with them, right? The truth is, y'all, I was just really trying to get a paycheck. You know, I had a little baby that was about 2 years old. I needed a job, and I did not want to lose that job. Back and forth with a divorce, I just was going through it. But the idea of having, and I think he dropped on me, but he's going to come back. But I'll continue telling you the story because I think it's worthy of telling. So, Tom, if you're out there, come back and join me. But I'm telling you, I was scared. And when I say to you, I was scared, I was truly scared. So I have to give Tom Mellor due. Tom Mellor ultimately became, once Ken Schwaber decided to leave the Scrum Alliance, he became the director, at least the head of the Scrum Alliance after Ken Schwaber actually left, and actually held the Scrum Alliance together truly, and probably would have maybe fallen apart definitely a lot more without Tom being at the helm, because Tom has always been a man of high integrity, and he's lived the values of Agile and Scrum, I would venture to say probably as well, if not better than, some of the people who created the Agile Manifesto. And that is the very truth. So I honor my mentor, the guy who introduced me to Scrum, really introduced me to Scrum, because I'm telling you people, hear what I'm saying to you. I would have never paid for a certification when it was free. It was free. Understand, Scrum was free. Nobody said I had to pay anything to do Scrum. And he told me to go get this dang on certification. And here's the worst part about it. My company wasn't going to pay for it. They didn't pay for it. Actually, after I got it, they decided to pay for it after I got it, because they saw that it was going to be valuable, because there was success happening with the Scrum project, and the buzz was happening around State Farm. Now, if you don't know this, State Farm is one of those companies that had a major transformation with Scrum. That people who went there to coach came out of there and turned their careers into something bigger. There's a few companies that exist like that, like the Yahoos, the Capital Ones, the State Farms, the Salesforces, that if you was there during that time, it helped to boost your career in some kind of way. And so after I left, they went ahead and had that time. But I was there to help begin the time, because I was there actually with Tom. And so literally when I say to you, the reason why I am fearless is because of who I'm going to call my godfather in Scrum. Now, you just heard me say that, right? You heard me say that. Tom Mellor is truly my godfather in terms of Scrum. And with him being my godfather in terms of Scrum, I can't help it but to express a ton of love and appreciation for him. And I think he's trying to come back, and we'll get him back sooner or later. Tom, you got to unmute yourself, man, if you're going to join me. You having technical difficulties?
Devon, I had to leave. I was downstairs on a camp.
No, that's okay, Tom. It's
with the
no
dogs,
problem.
man. But I heard you. Yeah, I appreciate everything you said.
Hear me, Tom. Hear me when I say this to you. You listening?
I'm listening.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be here.
right.
I wouldn't be here where I am today in this world without you telling me to go get a CSM, without seeing your bravery in terms of battling, State Farm. I clearly remember that. It gave me the bravery to actually stand up to people as I went to Capital One and then down to USAA. And the truth is, Tom, you know just as well as I do, There's a ton of people out here who get these certifications and don't know how to do Agile worth a squat, don't know how to do Scrum worth a squat. You know that just as well as I do. And when I would walk into organizations, Tom, with what you gave me, I was a beast. Yeah, I would get fired from being a beast because of you. I would get fired for being a beast because of you, but I was a beast, man. I would get walked out the door. And the problem is I'm over here like, I'm over here like, well, Tom wouldn't do that, so I ain't doing it. I'm like, nah, this is crazy. This is not the way it works. I got to keep a job because Tom is working toward pitching and everything else, and I ain't even made it even close. But I'm telling you, that time that we spent working for that few months, I think it was maybe even just 3 to 6 months that we had worked on that. When I say to you, it changed my life, it changed my life. And then, I kind of moved out of the sphere of being involved in all the Scrum Alliance stuff. And then Tom had to go and become the director of the Scrum Alliance. But when I think about somebody who I respect to the nth degree, who, as I stated earlier, is my godfather in Scrum, that's the man right there. That's the man right there.
Well, it's a humble compliment. I appreciate it. Thanks.
So how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's been quite a ride, and I know you've got some people on the call. Maybe they want to ask questions or whatever of you. But I joined I don't know, a few weeks ago, watched, and I thought, well, I got a notification that you were on right now, so I thought, oh, I'll jump on there and see
Well,
what's
you know what,
going
Tom?
on.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Anybody else who even attempt to come on, I'm done for the night. I didn't have what I needed to have for the night. So don't nobody else jump on. I'll answer your other questions next go around. The idea is that again, I have who I consider my godfather in this whole thing. And we talking about somebody who truly, if he called me to ask me for something, I would do it with no questions. This is not even a joke. All he had to do is just call me. My number ain't changed since 2001. And I would show up anytime, any place, even if we had to just go fight somebody. You understand? That's how I feel about Tom because, again, when I tell you all, I had never, like literally, I remember going to Ken's class and not that this is anything special. I looked at Ken and I could not believe him. I said, this is a God in front of me. I didn't believe I could do what he does and train. He's not a God whatsoever. But it was unbelievable to see somebody in front of me who wrote books, who was close to Tom, who Tom was working with closely, because you was actually working with Ken to try to get State Farm right. Am I correct?
Yeah, yeah, we were. He mentored me for several years as a Scrum Master and then also as a trainer.
And here's the deal. Like when I literally say to you, the lessons that I have from Ken, the majority of them are not from Ken. 99% of them is not from Ken. They're from Tom.
Yeah,
Because
that's
Tom
because
told me those stories about those trainings. Tom told me some real deal stories about what was happening. And those lessons that Ken was giving Tom, he was bringing back to State Farm when we was initially doing things. And State Farm went on to do a bunch of big stuff. They had a bunch of coaches come in. If I am I correct, Tom? After I
yeah,
had left, but I had left because the truth of the matter is, I knew I couldn't do one thing. I couldn't be a Tom. I was a
there'll be a lot of
contractor.
people that would be blessed about that, Devon.
No, no, but truth is, I was a contractor, right? And they wasn't
Yeah,
letting contractors be project managers.
no, and I remember I was battling the demons there, the bureaucratic demons and the
Yep.
project management office, and I had, in fact, Schwaber had told me, he goes, you're going to have to be careful because, you could very likely get fired. And then some, quite a bit of time passed, and he said he had a bet with Mike Cohn that I'd get fired there because I was too contentious and too obnoxious. And then Cohn said, yeah, he never got fired. And Schwaber looked at Cohn and said, he didn't try hard enough. I thought that was pretty funny. You know? But, I remember a contract programmer came up to me and told me, he goes, look, a lot of us admire what you're doing here, and we're very supportive of you, but you've got to know that we can't stand with you on this because they could walk us out the door in a heartbeat. We have no recourse here. They can just show up at our desk one day and tell us to leave, and we've got to leave. And you were in that position too. So a lot of contractors capitulated to the bureaucracy, and they just went along. And then it was I felt it was my duty as an employee to challenge all that waste. And I remember telling people, I said, Scrum's not going to make you go any faster. What's going to make you go faster around here is if you get all the waste removed from your processes. And I said, it doesn't matter how you do work then, things will go a lot better and a lot faster. But, as you know, and you've worked in companies like this, it's infiltrated with a lot of waste. I mean, they don't have an idea of what lean means. So,
and State Farm was, and literally, I mean, State Farm was implementing a waterfall process. They were, they had, I remember they had us going to a 5-day class.
Yeah, and they had come up, when they challenged me about using Scrum, we had some good results with it. And they said, well, we don't have to worry about that anymore because we're bringing in a new methodology. And I said, do you not understand? That's how you got into trouble to begin with. So, and it's funny because they were originally using Cooper's and Libran's Summit D methodology. And Schwaber, when I told Schwaber that, he looked at me and he laughed, and I said, what's so funny? And he said, the first Scrum project that I did, we were automating processes for Cooper's and Libran's Summit D methodology. The irony could not escape me. You know what I mean? It's just, and I said, I take it that you never did use the Cooper's and Libran's Summit D methodology. And he goes, heavens no, I didn't use it.
Wow. Wow. The irony of that.
Yeah. But, that's, he, when I originally talked to him about using Scrum, he told me, he goes, you're going to be fighting on many different angles. There are many fronts. And he goes, you have to be very careful because he goes, I'm sure it's a politically charged organization. And I said, it is politically charged. And he goes, you may very well sacrifice your career there if you push this to the limit. And I got confronted by an assistant vice president one day in the hallway, and she told me, she goes, you fell on your career sword here, or by pushing this stuff so rigorously. And I looked at her and I go, the only thing I can say, Barb, is I now feel very good because I don't feel any threat anymore since I've already fallen on the sword. That comment did not go over well.
That didn't go over well at
all. But that's, I think people, and I'm seeing this more and more even now because we're into the laggards of adoption, right?
Yeah, we are.
And what I see is you don't really have people that are willing to stand up and fight because, and frankly, I don't understand why, because I think employees have more leverage now than they ever did, especially with the whole COVID thing. But,
Yeah.
but on the other side of the coin, I do see leaders coming into organizations that get it
Yeah.
better.
Hmm.
We're starting to move the old people out,
Yeah.
and young people. And for many years now, I've been helping a professor at Illinois State University teach Scrum there as a capstone class at the business school.
Oh, nice.
And we've had great success with that. And
Hmm.
she's had over 95% placement out of her
Hmm.
class. So, that's the kind of stuff, Devon, that makes a person feel good
Yeah.
about this, you know.
So then, you being one of those trainers that was blessed, right? You was one of those trainers
Literally.
that was blessed with the sword. I mean, so here's the truth, right? Ken blessed certain trainers, right? And you're one of the ones that was blessed, and you was really close to Ken. You literally was. You one of the few that was truly, truly close to Ken. When did you get your CST, man? And how many
Yeah.
people? How many people have you trained, man?
Well, I just counted it up about a month ago. I've had 6,400 go through my workshops.
Okay.
So, and I've done 433 workshops.
Hmm.
So, and you might remember, State Farm actually paid for me to become a trainer.
Yeah.
And, um, and then I did 45 classes at State Farm and trained about a little over 1,000 people there.
1,000
Um,
people at State Farm. That's a lot.
yeah, I had average class size there for 45 classes was over 20 people. Some classes I had nearly 50 in them. So,
Wow.
but and they paid my trainer fee every year while I was there.
Hmm.
But the interesting thing was I was co-training with Schwaber in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and we would trade off. I'd do a section, he'd do a section. And we got done with a section, and he turned to me and he goes, "All right, you're in." And I was sitting next to his wife, Christine, and
Hmm.
I looked at her and I said, "Chris, what's that mean?" And she looked back at me and she kind of smiled and shrugged her shoulders and she said, "Well, I think it means you're a certified Scrum trainer. Congratulations."
Oh man.
And that was it. I mean, I was like, okay. and
Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's nice.
nothing else was said between Ken and I. That was it. The only thing I got was paperwork to sign and in the mail. That's when we used to get it in the mail.
In the snail mail. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
we got U.S. postal mail.
So then, so
Yeah.
then, what's one of the greatest lessons that you've learned over your Scrum journey, man?
Well, there's lots of every day's a lesson, but um, one of the lessons that I think that really hit home with me is it goes back to the old Montana cowboy adage: never miss a good chance to shut up.
Hmm.
And I remember Schwaber telling me, he goes, you're going to want to dive in there and solve problems. And he said, when they run for the cliff, your job is to say, I think you're running for the cliff. Your job is not to stop them from going off the cliff. And he said, you better get comfortable with falling off of cliffs
Hmm.
because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And and that happened to us one time when I was working on a product development effort at State Farm, and I told them, I said, I think this is not going to go well.
Hmm.
And we were doing incremental releases, so I mean, I guess I wasn't horribly worried, but and and the release for that quarter went horribly.
Mm.
And I never said, see, I told you so,
Mm-hmm.
because that doesn't do anybody any good. But I did say, look, I think we got to make sure that, I said, the thing about failing is we're going to fail because we're human and that's how we learn. But if you're not learning and you're failing,
Yeah,
you've got a problem here.
you do.
You got to figure out, how do we not do that again? Certainly, we would prefer not to do it the first time,
Right.
but and so I learned, along with that lesson, I learned Murphy is going to show up,
Mm-hmm.
and don't think you can ever stop him, because
Right.
he's going to show up,
Yeah.
and we just deal with that,
Mm.
you just deal with that. What I don't want are people setting Murphy up to show up.
That's true.
You
I agree with
know,
that.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want them sacrificing quality in the name of time pressure. I don't know if you were around when this happened, but Mike Mullane, who was an astronaut, came and spoke. We used to have these tech days in September at State Farm.
I was
And
gone,
one
man.
time, do you remember those?
No, I was gone. I was gone.
Oh, you were gone.
Like after
One
I got my
time,
CSM and you taught me, I went to go make some money, man.
there you go. One time, um, we had Elizabeth Hendrickson and we had Jeff Patton, and I was sitting with Jeff Patton, and Patton was looking around State Farm. We were in kind of in that H cafeteria area,
Yeah.
big area, and he goes, you know what? He goes, there's a more powerful assembly of people here than I've seen at the Agile 2000X conference.
Mm.
And I was looking around, and we had, Lowell Lindstrom was there, and
Yeah.
Patton was there,
Yeah.
Jeffries and Hendrickson were
Yeah.
there. They were just there at the invitation of the company to speak, and the company paid fees for them, and
Mm-hmm.
that was impressive. But I can remember Patton asking me, he goes, how this kind of suggests to me they're invested in this. Do you think they are? And I said, you know what? I think they're invested to the point where it's become very viral here.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, they've brought in 30 coaches.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that's crazy. But I said, they brought them in from Ivar Jakobsen.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Ivar Jakobsen is not a Scrum guy.
Right.
Those guys are, well, they would be safe guys now, right?
Yeah.
Those are process-driven guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, I said, I think at some point there's going to be a huge tension here,
Mm-hmm.
because those of us who want the latitude of Scrum, we want the flexibility around Scrum. I said, we're going to run into this problem of like disciplined agile delivery. That was starting to smell around a
Yeah.
little bit,
Yeah.
So, and in the end, there was a AVP there that was sponsoring our area,
Mm-hmm.
and he put a squash on everything. That's when I decided I was going to leave,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because, he said this whole Scrum thing is putting too much pressure on us on the middle management and upper management levels. And I said, I'm not here to quote people, but I said, one of the things that Scrum will do will show your inadequacies and dysfunction
Yeah.
in different places, right? And I said, I think that's what it's starting to reveal here.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2017, when they went through a digital transformation there, they got rid of 40% of their management in their IT area.
Yeah.
I mean, they dumped it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's, I still have many friends that work there, and I
Yeah.
stay in touch with them. They still haven't become agile.
Yeah.
And I remember asking Lowell Lindstrom, when do you think State Farm will become agile, Lowell? And he goes, when two things happen. The first one is you're no longer, you feel the pressure of competition.
Yeah.
You don't feel that now,
No, they
right?
don't.
You even have a mantra called you're the big dog on the porch.
Right.
So he said, you don't really feel anybody nipping at your heels. He goes, I think you will eventually. Um, and he said the other thing that has to happen is you have to have a generational turnover of leadership here, right? Because
Yeah.
you've had traditionally trained managers here
Yeah.
integrated all the way through the system.
Yeah.
So until younger people come in with a fresher perspective of this stuff,
Hmm.
and he goes, as long as they teach the old way in the universities,
Yeah.
you're going to be fighting, an uphill battle. So we've seen more than a few universities now starting to, I don't know if they're really teaching the essence of this, but
Yeah.
they're recognizing that it's a force,
Right.
and I know USAA, delved into it. You were there.
Yeah, I was there.
And yeah, all those financial services companies, what we used to call insurance companies, they're very old traditional companies. A lot of them have been around for years and years.
Yeah.
And, turning those ships is a very difficult thing to do. Very
Super
difficult.
difficult.
Yeah.
Super
And
difficult.
USAA had an excellent reputation. Um, a lot of the military officer corps and
Hmm.
now non-military people have been in there, but you get some chinks in their armor once in a while too.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I was there when
Yeah.
Scrum got completely kicked out the building. Then they brought
Right.
Scrum back,
It just,
and we just
yeah.
had a good time. And it was when I say to you, when I came back, it was a year and a half before we was able to really make a dent. And we had to make a
Yeah.
dent in a lab where we wasn't connected to the real environment. So it was.
Right. They want to sequester you, right, away
Yes,
from things
they
so
did.
that they can keep control over that. This you find this interesting, Devon. We were given permission by the project management office to do a
Hmm.
Scrum project just as if we weren't even at State Farm.
Yeah.
We had to follow none of the processes. We could do things any way we wanted.
Hmm.
And this was going to be an incubation, right? It
Yeah.
was going to be a case study.
Yeah.
And so we put out a really good product.
Hmm.
And the and so I the project management office, including some executives, we had a debrief with them, and
Hmm.
one of the things was, well, we we would be concerned about the auditing side of this thing, you
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I said, we've sent it to auditing. And honest to God, I thought one of the guys was going to faint,
Mm.
one of the executives. And he goes, why in the world would you do that? And I just looked right back at him and I said, Ken, why in the world wouldn't we do it? And he looked at me shell shocked. And I said, you've got to be kidding me. I said, do you think we're going to be afraid of an audit of our project? I said, if that's the case, then we're effectively doing this clandestinely. We don't
Yeah.
want to, I don't want to come across as this is some secret operation. I
Yeah.
said, throw the thing out to the auditors and let them chew on it. I want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
This isn't compliant. This isn't compliant. So we got the report back. Of course, the project office got the report back too. And it was interesting. A lot of the things that they reviewed, they had to consult with us because the naming conventions didn't stack up. Like a product backlog, I had no idea where that fit into the
Right.
auditing framework, right? Sprint backlog, do you have a project plan? No, we have many project plans here.
Right.
We have a month's worth at a time. And so they were, but when it came back, I met with the three auditors, and they said, we have no problems here. The only thing that we thought was missing that should have been there for sure was a test plan. And they said, did you construct a test plan? And I said, no, our test plan was here. And they go, well, we'd like it in writing. And I go, I get it. I said, we had testing process, and you were able to follow that, right? We went through the process of testing. And they go, oh yeah, we saw you mapped it up against your product backlog. Right. So the things that we built, and they said, you did this new thing called test-driven development. So you actually placed the tests ahead of the building of the product. And I said, that's exactly what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, you didn't have a requirements document, but you did have use cases, and you did map things to the use cases. So we felt that was adequate, you know. And we saw your product backlog as really a requirements document, although it really isn't. It's more like a wish list.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, it is. But they said you embedded your requirements into what you called story docs.
Mm-hmm.
I said, right, we had stories written out, you know, about what we wanted to build, and then inside those stories were specifications, you know, inside, and they were in documents stored in, you know, in wiki, in our wiki space or wherever we stored it. So, you know, I guess my point is we didn't want to run from anything,
Right.
you know, because if you're going to prove something out, you better be able to prove it out conventionally.
Yeah.
Right? You can't say, okay, you have to do things specially here. You know, like you have to have special auditing and things like that because the rest of the organization is built around all these processes that have been in place for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, either if they're wasteful, then we would recommend get rid of them. But
Right.
if they're beneficial, we would say, okay, you better look at, you know, improving them if you
Right.
can. But you're not going to kick processes that are deemed to be effective and arguably compliant, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a highly regulated, you've worked in a highly regulated environment.
Right.
I mean, you know, whether you're building FDA approved
Mm-hmm.
pharmaceuticals or things like that, you know, the big story coming out now is that Pfizer used an agile approach to build their COVID vaccine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It was done with effectively what we would consider test-driven development.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, those kinds of things are hugely beneficial stories for us.
Yeah. So here's a question for you, Tom, because we're gonna
Sure.
run out of time. But I want
Oh
you
yeah.
to do me a huge favor. Huge
Sure.
favor. There are lots of what we would say laggards that are kind of new to this. People who are brand new to Scrum right now. They're coming to a whole different world with safe and all types of processes and even competing Scrum processes, right? For somebody that's absolutely brand new to this, if they had 5 minutes to sit with you, to have a conversation, what would you tell them? What would you recommend to them?
Well, I'd recommend three things.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing is don't even think about scaling anything. In fact, the last thing you want to do is scale anything. Because when you move things to the large, you're inviting a large amount of risk and a large amount of problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still of the adage that you can still do many things in the small, even in big organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can at least tool it so that it's small in the way that you do it. Frankly, I don't know how SAFe has made it in the world. I know how it's made it because it's appealed to the formerly indoctrinated, you know,
True.
the traditionalists, right? So the second thing I would tell them is stop worrying about the process and start worrying about how you think about how you do this work.
Mm-hmm.
If you had any work to do, if you could just sit down and think logically about how would we go about doing this work. We don't have a process. Just say we don't have it. What would we do first? What would we do next? What would we then do?
Mm-hmm.
And I worked a lot of projects at State Farm that way. We didn't use Scrum, right? We sat down, we said, what's our vision of this thing? How do we break up the work? How do we figure out what we need to do?
Mm-hmm.
And how are we going to make adjustments on the go, right? Because we can't be very predictive about things we don't know very much about. So as we feel our way in the dark and we run into a mouthful of teeth, how do we move away
Mm-hmm.
from that? So, and the third thing I would tell them is, I've taught certification classes for going on 13 years now, since 2008. And I would tell them, I go, quit worrying about the three letters that go after your name. You know, hell, you can invent three letters to put after your name. Nobody knows what the hell these letters mean anymore. Anyway. So, but I said, what you better not lose is the lessons that come out of this, like you talked about, right? These aha moments you have when you see them with people in the workshops, and you go, yeah, the light went on there,
Yeah.
you know, because as you and I know, this is all about how you think, and I'm not trying to change people's thinking. What I'm trying to give them is some basis for actually generating thought.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how would we do this? You know, that's why we use a lightweight framework, Scrum, for lots of things, because it has malleability. It has the
Mm-hmm.
ability to be changed, you know. And I think with those three things, the more flexible you are in how you approach work and the less dogmatic you are about things, I think the better off you're going to be in
You know what, Tom? I appreciate you more than you will ever know. There are so many people who have received your teachings through me because of what you taught me. And because it wasn't what you taught me in the classroom, because you didn't teach me Scrum in the classroom,
the end. Right.
it was the battles on the ground. It
Yeah.
was the literal being in State Farm and not understanding why. why? Why? We giving you the right answer and you telling us to go backwards, right? And it just was those lessons that have shaped, when I say to you, Tom, everything I've done. And so we have this thing that's happening, in the music community, especially the rap community, where they're giving people their flowers now before they pass on and move on. And you know what? I'm giving you your flowers from me to you now. I'm not saying go anywhere, Tom. But I'm saying that I appreciate you. And you know what I would love to do, Tom? And I think that this is probably something that would work well in our community. Is we have a bunch of stalwarts that exist in the Agile community. And based on this conversation here, I think we should start giving people their flowers. I hate to see more of us pass on without that happening, without getting people like you and getting videos out there so people can see them, over time. I think it's time. This community has been solidified for a long period of time. And there's so many people I've crossed paths with over the years that I believe, in my mind, that we should be honoring those people now.
Very much. And some of them are getting, pretty old.
So, you
Yeah.
know, with the permission of my godfather, I like to make sure that I involve you in that process. So I am going to contact you this week, probably Friday, because I'm training tomorrow, Tom. Normally I'm dog tired. I'm an introvert like you are. So I'm going to be dogged
Yeah,
after the
work it
class, right?
out.
But I'm going to reach out to you this Friday or this weekend, right? And I'd like to talk to you about structuring that, because I really do want to give people their flowers, man. But I would like to do that with you.
I'd be honored, and that's a fantastic idea, actually.
Tom, I appreciate you, man.
Well, I'm glad I could jump on, Devon. I didn't want to interfere. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, you don't. You know what, Tom? It doesn't. You know what? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. For the people that are here live, LinkedIn, YouTube, whatever, people that are going to see the video later, they will be honored by this. Because the truth of the matter is, Tom, I have seen so many people with the lights that have turned on in a classroom setting. And I love to be on the ground, right? I started on the ground with Scrum. I love to be on the ground with Scrum. But in a classroom setting, what we get is maybe those lights turning on in that classroom setting. We don't a lot of times get to see what happens when they leave.
No.
And that's not the same as when we have somebody in our space and we can work with them and they can come back to us and we can exchange ideas that help maybe give them a nugget here or there for them to think through it, figure it out, and move forward. We don't get to see those transitions happening, right, in the training environment. So it's nice to see when it clicks. And I've had the opportunity to see a lot of people's light bulbs turn on over time. But the only reason why that's happened is because you pulled my coattail and said, we're going to be doing Scrum.
Yeah, I can remember. I said, grab your helmet and get in the Humvee, Devon, because we're going to go for a ride.
And it has been, I can say it's been the most amazing ride because it's taken a young black man from the south side of Chicago around the world. I became the first black certified Scrum trainer because of you. It means a whole lot. When I go inside of schools and talk to kids, they look at me different, and so there's a big, huge impact that we've had, but we need to honor the people that are still here. And I really want to do that. So I'm going to take some time, and me and you, we need to just do it.
You just tell me when and where, and we'll do it.
Okay. Tom, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming on.
Devon, take care. Give your lovely wife a hug for me.
Okay. I will be in touch soon. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Tom.
Take care.
Have a good night.
Yep. You too. Bye.
People. That right there literally brings tears to my eyes. I mean, literally. I mean, for real. I am going to say to you, for those that are around, that stayed, everything else, that was such an honor for me. I mean, that was such an honor for me. And so somehow I just created more work for myself. Did you notice that? I just created more work for myself. So we're going to do it. I'll contact Tom this week, and I'm going to ask you all that are here, hold me accountable to it. Literally, hold me accountable to it. But hopefully you have enjoyed the show. I'm sorry I didn't let anyone else come on. Reach out to me. Y'all know how to reach out to me. And I will bring up, I may even get on next week or something like that, just to kind of double up. But I really appreciate you all. If you enjoy that, throw a fire emoji out there, a thumbs up or something like that for me. Because the truth of the matter is, I didn't script that. I didn't plan that. Okay? I didn't plan that at all. But it was such a pleasure. It was such a pleasure. So I'm going to say to you all, hey, have a wonderful rest of your evening. I will see you maybe even next week. I'll let you know. But peace. You'll be hearing from me soon. Thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing night.